check. All right, so you should, can you hear me now? Hopefully you can. Let me turn down this a touch. Yeah, let me know if you can hear me. We're going to talk about creative gradients and color. So, yeah, just let me know. Fantastic. Yeah, I accidentally pulled my mic closer to me, and I broke the end of this cable. So, pulled it closer, and I broke it, and I'm so sorry. But we're going to dive into creative gradients and color. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to Jesus as well, Jesus Ramirez, fantastic guy and does amazing work. So we're going to dive into this masterclass, creative gradients and color, how you can produce just really some really cool work is the goal. I'm going to share some of it with you right now, but here's the agenda: exploring and capturing color. So I'm going to show you how you can actually a new feature in Adobe Capture as well. So yeah, got some cool things going on and all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, Chad, is this thing on? All right, let's go ahead and I guess switch screens and show you some magic. Yeah, I can't believe I pulled the mic and broke the cable. So here's some examples of, again, just creative color, as you can see right in here, kind of what you'd start with, which is still an amazing picture, right? But again, creative use of color and gradients, as you can see, right? So I have a number of examples of this, by the way, sort of starting with your original image. By the way, if you ever want to jump a layer to the very top, Shift Command and then press the closing bracket will jump it to the top. So again, starting out and then creative use of color, as you can see right here. So I have lots of examples of this. I wake up early all the time. So thank you so much for joining me. If you are on YouTube, jump over to behance.net/live. That's where I'm monitoring chat, and I'm seeing people say fancy and stuff like that. Thank you for that, Richard. So let me show you really fast as I turn this on. This is super exciting. So this is what is called Adobe Capture. Okay, so in Adobe Capture, you actually have the ability to capture colors and gradients. Gradients is the new thing, and here I am. I get it. Let's switch over right here. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. But gradients is the new thing. So check this out. We'll just go full screen with this. And you can see I've already captured some colors and some gradients. So what I can do, again, those are my colors. I can go to camera, by the way, and you can see this bar that I get. In fact, let me put up a more interesting image without pulling the cable out of the microphone. Right, I can see right in here, and I can tap to freeze, and I can adjust accordingly, because maybe I want to get that teal. The mid-tone's going to be that orange, and then get this black, and I can start to adjust accordingly. But I'm doing this all from an image, which is super cool, right? Here's the only thing that you need to know, and I'd probably go into the gray. I think this is a really hot color scheme, by the way. So capturing it, here's the colors that you can tweak some more, amp it up a little bit, adjust accordingly, saving that, and that gets saved. So the current issue is that it's currently not quite supported in, let's get rid of that, zoop. In CC libraries, the gradients aren't, but colors are. So I could do the same thing, and I can capture gradients in my, colors in my libraries panel. Let's just bring that in there. Cool. All right, so right in here, I can show you Maltura. Here are the gradients. Oh, look at that. It'll capture it, but it captures it as an image, okay? So yes, we're killing it. I'm not killing it, but other people are killing it when it comes to mobile. So here's an image. Of course, you can see I can drop in. This gradient is going to be for use later on. So anyways, Just thought you should know, by the way, you can also jump in. Since we're talking about color and trendy color, you could literally type in Trendy Gradients and you're going to see a lot of purples and vibrant colors. So how can we make contemporary designs that kind of follow these sort of, yes, trendy or modern sort of color palettes is what we have, right? So we could search out there. We could also try our own color.adobe.com, just so you know. Right in here, you could see colors. In fact, I'll go into trends. So this is color.adobe.com. Yes, isn't it cool kind of capturing these colors on mobile, which is just super fun because I've actually realized a couple new palettes and gradients that I like. So right in here, you can see fashion, graphic design, illustration. Can come in here. It's like, hey, I like this one. We could add this to my library. Adding that to be mindful of what library you're adding it to. That's kind of the only thing you need to remember. Oh, I love this one right here, right? That's a lot like those sort of trendy palettes. Add to library. It's going to add it to the people library because that's currently what I have been working with, and it says that right down there. Okay? Yes, holly can be lost for days. I get it, right? But it really makes the difference. I think more than anything, color will make something look old or new or whatever the case may be. You can see these two color palettes that I've captured. We can see my image right here, and I can start to work with it accordingly. So right in here, I can grab, say, just a shape, just like that, currently set to black, and now I can grab that pink color right there, okay? And dropping that in the center, right? And we can start to make our abstract shapes and making a contemporary design as I start to work with this. Okay, let's go to Custom Shape Tool. What's really cool right now is in terms of shapes is like a triangle. So let's do our triangle with that pink, and then we can dive into the blend modes that you're aware of. Let me know if you have questions going forward. Thank you so much for joining me. Typically, I'll go through the blend modes. Of course, the blend modes, we can start to add something cool as well, just rolling through these. First ones are going to be darker, then we get into our lighter ones, and then we get into our sort of more of our color ones, how they interact on down the line. So typically, I'll play with these a lot. I end up picking overlay a lot, right? Just because I like it. And then again, we have sort of the start for sort of a modern design as I add a stroke to it, because I can't help it, right? Making this look a little bit just more kind of modern and cool. You get the idea, okay? So what did I do? I just created a shape. I filled it with a color, okay? And that's typically what's going to happen. It's like you will jump in here, create a shape. Let's grab a circle. Actually, why did I even do that? There's the ellipse tool. Silly me. All right, kind of drawing out from the center, kind of like that. And just to show you something really fast, I'm still going to pick a color, right? And I'll just change this color. So I'll double click. Maybe I'll, actually, you know what? Let's just pick that mustardy color, which is okay. One thing you need to know, if you're diving into color, you need to understand color theory, because basically what I just did is I pointed you to some cool sites that show the sort of like the trendiest colors. Okay, I can point you to these sites. Here's all the coolest colors. But then as you start to play with them, you know, what colors work well together, right? And that gets into color theory, which is hugely important. I would recommend Itten's Elements of Color. It's the thinnest book that you will find, or excuse me, The Art of Color, Elements of Color. This book right here, okay, so it's like 60 pages long, and it talks about sort of how to match color and all that fun stuff, okay? So essentially what this book is of course color theory. Guess what? We do have a little bit of color theory as we dive into creating color right in here. If we go to complementary, right, you get the idea. This is color theory. Applying color harmonies is what it comes down to as I take a look at this, right? So since I've already picked, let's move this off to the side. since I've already picked sort of a pink, right? I picked the pink. Let's move that over like so. Pinkish red. I know a complementary color is, of course, going to be green. Okay, so think Christmas, think Los Angeles Lakers, not Denver Broncos. Yeah, Denver Broncos. That's right. Let's go to Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos, in case for those football fans, is blue and orange, right? So I think of half sports teams, half holidays, right? But that's what you want to do is you can jump out here and say, hey, you know what? I'm having trouble with this color. What's the complementary color for it, right? Another big thing is to remember the brightness or the shades of a color as well. So if I'm picking a really bright pink or red, I want to go bright with this orange as well, or gold color. In fact, I'll tweak it just like that. These colors go together better than what I had before. So it's just a little tweak. Jumping in here, I'm going to show you something really fast. Again, we could change this. Take that down. We could see how that interacts as well, right? Let's line these both up. Again, this is color theory and color gradients. My name is Paul Trani. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Really appreciated it. Wanted to show you another thing really fast. Oh, by the way, here's another shortcut that I don't do a lot. Alt key, drag, boom. You're welcome. Van Damme, are you seeing this? I'm not going to be reviewing the daily challenge posts, Van Damme. Sounds like a great idea. Sorry, I'm not. But see what I just did there? I wanted that exact same stroke on this other shape, right? Over here. It was not like that a second ago. You can hold down the Alt key, and just like you can with layer masks and other things, click and drag that effect, and it will apply it. As long as you're holding down the Alt key, it applies that stroke. Okay? Super easy to work with. Okay, so we're playing with colors. This here is a fill color, right? Oh, I'm loving this. Let's just duplicate this. Let's just say I have this third shape. Let's scale it down, moving this into place. I have this third shape, okay? Man, this looks just really cool, I might add. But what if I don't want this, what if I actually just don't want this fill color? I really think it's cool though, by the way. The fill color is right here. I want the stroke, but I don't want the fill. Right over here, that's what this is. If you lower the opacity, it's gonna change the opacity of everything, okay? Right underneath that, let's get that back up to 100, is the fill, okay? Just so you know, any number, or excuse me, any input field, the word next to it is a scrubby slider. By the way, Van Damme, Richard, Chad, you guys listen to this. Hold down the shift key and it will do it by constraints of, you guessed it, 10s. Shift key constrains to 10. I can also just type in 66. Actually, if I don't even do that, if you're just somewhere and you just type 6, that'll change your opacity to 60%. Again, nothing is selected. Type 3, it changes the opacity to 30%. But again, in the fill, right in here. By the way, what if, just so you know, this is very Illuminati. You're exactly right. Can you do it as you drag and drop an image? Ooh, great idea, Christy. Into Adobe Color. Yes, I'll talk about that. So I got a question online. Let me do that in a second. But I did want to show you also, you have math operators in here. So I can say 3 times 3, enter, equals 9. Right? Did you know that Photoshop does math? It does math, right? So again, it really doesn't make it, I get it. 40 times 280. You get the idea. Okay, taking that back down to 0, kind of got away from myself. There's my simple line. Again, we're slowly building in this Illuminati sort of look is the idea. Okay, so I've covered colors, and just to kind of reference back to exploring and capturing color is what we've just done. We've manipulated color. We could start saving these colors if we want to. Hey, Jesse, how are you doing? Good to see you. I want to dive into tinting and coloring images as well, which is super fun as well. Since we already have, we kind of have our cool Illuminati image, right? I'm kind of digging it, by the way. It's neat. All right. Let's move on. Let's close this other stuff that shouldn't be here. We have our Illuminati symbol. Zoop. Illuminati. Saving that. Let's open up another image and just start from scratch. In fact, let's do a couple things. Okay? Let's take this image here. Right? Or even this one, right? Just hipsters on bikes. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. Hipsters on bikes. Okay? Let's talk about colorizing images. A lot of this is done, and by the way, what I was drawing out here, these are just simple shape layers. So if I pull out this layers panel, we're just creating simple shape layers because that was super easy to do. And good Lord, I cannot grab the top bar. Help me. Let's move this out. Move that up. Pop it up. Come on now. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Let's move this off to the side. Basically, I wanted to show you right down here, this is what we're going through. You're learning so much about Photoshop. We've added solid color. We have gradients in here. We can dive into patterns. When it comes into gradients, sure, we could do that. Selecting gradient, you guessed it. We're creating a new gradient fill, right? And we have a number of these gradient fills right there. There we are. Let's do it from an angle, right? Let's reverse it. Boom, there it is. There's our gradient fill. So earlier we made just a shape. Now we have our gradient fill. And this guy, luckily his name is Phil. We can add some color effects on that. That's pretty easy. Okay, but I'm kind of going through all of this. Let's dive into something more complex. You ready for this? Oh, Moonir, you are awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. I just appreciate everybody's just being so positive. I mean, life's hard enough anyways. We all have bills. I'm just thankful you're here. A lot of times I'll hit F once, and what F does, or F, if you hit it again, you get this sort of full screen view. So F, think of full screen. Because sometimes I'll work in this mode, and it just gets rid of a little bit more of the chrome, and might make it easier for everybody to see, right? So right in here, here's my image. What do I want to do with this? Well, quite frankly, I might want to add, and let's just convert this to a smart object. I want to tint this photo. So we're talking about colorizing photos now, okay? So what do? We have vibrance, hue, and saturation. All of these that you could play with all day long, right? We want to go into hue and saturation. We know what that's going to do. It's going to crank it up, of course, sort of non-discriminately. If we wanted to colorize a photo like my agenda showed, we can colorize it. So click right there. Of course, it's going to colorize it the color that we want, since we like that nice sort of hot pink. Thanks, Ang. F for full screen. Okay, so that's one way to tint a photo, but actually what I want to do is I want to sort of like tint a photo along a gradient map. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go in here, click right here, and I'm going to go to right down here, gradient map. Okay, I'll pause for a second. And this is what I currently get. This is my gradient map. Okay, you can see it right here, gradient map, and it gives me this gradient right up here. So this is what's tinting the photo. This is saying, this lets me define what's dark, the color that's dark, and the color that's light. So right in here, this is where I want to go in and click, not there. You know, this is what I want. So you saw what I had earlier. Now look what I have in this case. I have this beautiful, not only hot pink, but it goes clear up to this red. It almost blows him out a little bit, right? We could always change that and make that a little darker. But you get the idea. I'm actually using this gradient map to change the color as well. Christy, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I saw you over on YouTube, and thanks for joining us on Behance. So it's easier to see your comments. So again, this is how we can tint colors. These are all my gradients, right? We can make this a new gradient, and now I have my fancy new gradient. You're probably wondering, where did all these gradients come from? Well, you could load in a ton more gradients if you want to. So, is that like going into adjustments, gradient, and adding a gradient later? So when you go to adjustment, gradient map, it maps the gradient to the lights and darks and gives you full control. If you just add a gradient layer over the top of an image, it doesn't do the same thing. Because this says, hey, you know what? Whatever's dark, in fact, whatever's really dark, just to show you, make that green. And now we have this guy that probably was riding his bike where he shouldn't, through some nuclear power plant field or something, right? But just to show you, it's actually the gradient over on a layer indiscriminately adds a gradient. This understands the image and says, hey, you know what? I'm going to apply the appropriate color. In this case, it kind of looks like a highlight to the image, like so. Click OK. OK. By the way, so let's go in here. I have my gradient tool as well. Okay, so I can create a new layer. I feel like I'm going through so much. This is a master class, so I feel like I shouldn't have to cover the basics. Okay, luckily for that. Because we already know that we have the gradient tool. We already know that we can come in here and select a gradient and do that, right? Zip, zip, zip. Zip, zip, zip. What's the difference? Here's a question for Eric in the house. Cheers to you, buddy. Man, that is some delicious iced coffee. All right, so what's the difference between these two layers? Zoop. These could look exactly the same, but this is a pixel layer based, and this is sort of a vector based. So this is going to be vector based. Admittedly, I use this all the time because this is just easier to draw on the image. But sometimes if I just want some nice gradient map in the background, I'll use this. Because watch what happens if I resize the image. You ready for this? If I resize the image to something else, because I do this, I end up doing this a lot, just depending on the image size. 7,000 by 500. Oh, not that much. Let's try this again. Sorry. This is a long way of saying basically the pixel layer obviously is constrained to pixels, but this gradient map extends all the way and covers the whole image. So that's all you need to know there. Let's undo that. Let's move on to some more things, because all I did is just tinted this color with this image with a gradient map, and now he looks electric. And guess what? I can change this every time. Load up these, by the way. So I said you do this, you click this little gear and you open up this flyout menu. Come down here and do this like photographic toning. Okay, so this is how you hi Lucas, how are you doing? Not looking at portfolios right now, but I think Howard's up in an hour and a half, and he's going to talk about the XD Daily Creative Challenge where he'll look at those portfolios. But look at this, is what these photographic toning ones are as well. So come in here, I want to tint it blue. There it is. Tint it sort of a nice warm tone, and you get the idea. Boom, boom, boom. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. This is not, I wouldn't even consider this a masterclass move. Like, I hope you know about this already. Like, it's, again, super easy to work with. Let's go beyond that, okay? So we've tinted this. I'd say this looks good. We could change it at any point in time. Let's open up another image and get more complex, okay? I have this image. In fact, we'll open this up. We'll open up this image as well. Geez. Oh, or even this one. Interesting. Ooh. We're going to try this a couple times. Are you ready for this? Let's move this off to the side. Move him over like that. Zip, zip. Okay, so this is what we have. We have image on the left. Right over here, largely, it's pretty drastic, intense image. I think I could actually pick a better one, which is why I opened up another image. So I have this image on the left, image on the right. I want to tint this image on the right with the colors from the image on the left. What do? Let's move my layers panel back so it doesn't get too crazy. We'll go to, let me actually try something. Convert to smart object. We go to image, adjust. That's why I don't make it a smart object. Image adjustments, match color. Okay. Hey Mohammed, you're 11 years old and a motion graphics animator 3D model. I love Autodesk, Maya, and fond of character animation. And you should be very fond of Photoshop. Hope you all get addicted. Thank you, Sydney, as well, for joining us. So right in here, this is what we're doing. We're doing a match color. This has been around, honestly, a while, but since it's nested so deep, people might not be aware of it. So what do? Here's my current image. And I'm saying, hey, go grab that handsome guy sitting on a chair. Use that image, and now you can see it's matched. Taken colors from this first image, matched it to the second. Of course, he's blown out extremely. Well, we can control the color intensity, right? And the luminance of this. As I take that luminance down, you can see what it's doing. And I can even blend it a little bit with the original, okay? So hopefully you're seeing that, blending that with the original, but still keeping some of those highlights there, okay? Clicking OK, done and done. We've matched color. We've used gradients. I got to keep moving. I'm going to do this other image as well because I wanted something more complex. This image right here, called Layer 2 PSD of all things. Image, adjustments, match color. Layer 2 PSD, where I can actually use a specific layer, but look what it did. You can see right now, it already looks really good. Clicking OK. This is what I would do if I'm ever making a layout. I need to have even color consistency. Even though I'm using different photos, I need them to all match and look consistent just because it's going to just be so much more pleasing to your eye. So that's when you're going to match this color. That's when you're going to have, instead of using this image next to this one, maybe use this one. We have more of a color harmony with them as well. So, okay, so when adding the photographic toning gradients, you replace as your previously added gradients. First of all, I'm really sorry that that happened. I honestly hate that. But I'll show you how that works. Anytime you add, by the way, so I add a sort of a metals, for instance. When I add metals, it says, hey, would you like to append? So this should say just add. Would you like to add these gradients to the current list? So click append, and now I keep my previous gradients, but now I have my metallic gradients. So anytime you see append, go with append. Same thing for shapes, by the way, as I show you really fast, not to get too off track. Let's go to cancel. Let's go to this image right in here. Same thing for shapes as well. Another thing, I really load up Photoshop with all sorts of crazy things. This is my other sort of gear flyout menu that you want to use. So look at all these various shapes. And these are basic shapes and not so basic shapes that I feel like I need quite often. I'm often right in here with these guys, okay? But right in here I can click, same thing. We want to add everything, free stuff for you, okay? I click all and then click append, and it's going to add all of those, and now you can see the animals and the all that stuff. You get the idea, and then from there, I didn't even pick anything, by the way. From there, we can grab our, ooh, let's see what this is. Ooh, our sparkly wheel, and use a fun color. In fact, let's, in this case, she had this epiphany. Since she's on this ridge, let's go into the sort of the overlays, something like that. Does it work? No. The thing about using yellow is you don't want to make it muddy, because that's essentially what I'm doing. This is getting super muddy, as you can see. Okay, so let's move on. I've already talked about that one. We've done some color matching. Let's dive into some more complex work, as you can see right here. Right, some of this stuff as well, super complex, gets a little bit more complex. And then we have this image that got pretty fun as well. So let's move on from there. Let's take a look at this shape right here. Let's kind of dive into this. I'm going to move pretty quickly now. I need to select this subject, so we will do select subject. This is usually where I start. I start with select subject. I think Jesus just talked about selecting subjects and stuff. There it goes. Selected the subject, by the way. And again, this is a little bit of an aside. You should know about select subject. I'm going to hit deselect. I'm going to go into select. What we have here is I always look at the image and I said, what's gonna enable me to select him in the foreground, right? And then I'll maybe go to the select menu or use some of these tools. But the next place I'll try is focus area. So this is live, by the way. I haven't done it with this image. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Let's see if this works. No hands. It's going through and says, hey, you know what? Oh, you have to believe me, Archibald. And Matthew and everyone. I haven't used this image before. I'm like, I just wanted to see it. See if it would do a select focus area, and it does automatically. And I can select more or less and essentially screw it up since it did such a good job the first time. Okay. But I can grab a little bit more. I guess it doesn't really destroy it that much. Ooh, it actually grabs more of the rocks down here, by the way. Right? Click OK. Ooh, by the way, what is it going to do? I can do a couple things. So many things to talk about. I might want to go into select and mask right away and change this. It did a pretty good job. I can do an overlay color. You get the idea. Brush size. Oop, wrong way. X. There we go. Just getting rid of some of these parts right here. New layer with layer mask. Click OK. Done. Boom, boom, boom. I could fix some other parts, but let me kind of move on from here. I'm going to use some gradients and do some fun things. And actually kind of dive into even working with Illustrator and actually tinting the stuff a little bit more closely. Let me just select this. Fill this with black. We're just getting rid of that. There we go. Here's our character. Just kind of like I was doing with these shapes as well. Okay? I have these gradients that I can use. Something was coming out of his head. So, focus area selection. Right in here for this. This is another thing I might do. Is consider maybe amping up this color. Oh, so many things I want to do. You're just gonna have to roll with me. Just work with me here, okay? Work with me. Let's just create a new layer. Let's get some black in there. All right. Black gradient. Using that as a clipping mask right there. And now we have that going into black or a different color. Again, just working on some thoughts. Clipping mask, increasing that color, maybe shifting it a little bit. All right, cool. I don't even know if that's looking that good, but the short of it is I can sort of selectively add my gradients as well. So I want to add actually a gradient like I did right here, added that gradient to that bottom half, right? And this is what I'll do. I'll end up with a couple layers and kind of determine what's going to look good, right? Maybe I want to go into that yellow color that I had before and just see how this looks. Adding that yellow right there, working with the different gradients to sort of capture a highlight or just make it look more bright, right? Command U, shift these colors around. I'm just kind of playing with this to see what works. Hopefully that makes sense. I think what it needs to be is maybe a dark blue. I could be wrong. Kind of want that color. I don't know, something like that. You get the idea. All right, let's move on. I think this is like okay. I still kind of like the black. Since we're working with color, what I'll do a lot is brush and kind of brush on there. In this case, I'm gonna use some shortcut keys. Hold down Shift. To make it a little more soft. You know, adding a highlight right there and then going through to say like overlay, for instance. All right, you get the idea. All right, let's move on. Let's add some interesting elements in here. We'll go into Illustrator. Yes, I get it. This is Photoshop Masterclass. But to be honest with you, if you're doing any sort of design or any creative work, you want to use the, you know, the tool that's sort of most appropriate for your job. Okay. I might be able to do this in Photoshop, but I wanted to show you this really fast, if I could. Is that okay, Eric? Can I show this to you, my friend? Putting that back. Let's do like a circle, like we're going to just create sort of like a moon rising. And this moon, if I open up the properties panel, is going to have a cool fill as well. There's my fill, adjusting that as well. There we are. Show you the difference between, say, Illustrator and Photoshop when it comes to gradients. Okay, so in Illustrator, we have linear gradients, we have radial gradients, right? Linear, radial, and I'm going to show you a third in a second. And in Photoshop, if we take a look, we will bring in our amazing big sort of spaceship moon thing right there. Zoop. There it is. We have, wait for it, sorry for setting this up, gradient tool right up here at the top. We've been using linear gradients. 9 times out of 10 you're using linear gradients, right? So we have that linear gradient. Let me pick a couple different colors. So let's pick this one. Right, there we go. We have that linear gradient. We have the radial gradient, which I can offset. So it's coming from that upper left. We have this third one, which is the angle gradient, which I'm curious if anybody has ever used this angle gradient. I've never at least needed this hard line, okay? And then we also have this fourth one. Wait for it. I'm just waiting for the name to pop up. The reflected gradient, which just makes this go from light to dark to light. And then we have this diamond shape. So anyways, there's all the gradients. Wasn't that exciting? I get it, right? A lot of people will come in here and they'll do a gradient like this. You have this capability to flip. So if I wanted the center to be dark, boop, I could flip it like that. And now the center is dark. I could flip it back. So that's right in here. Okay. Notice we're actually maintaining the transparency. And then right here, you can see, we can reduce some banding as well. Those are set by default. That's usually what you want anyways. Okay. So I wanted to show you those. I did also want to show you in Illustrator, since we're talking about colors and gradients, I'm going to go right over here to this choice right here. And I'm going to select this last one, freeform gradient, just so you're aware of this. You're a master of Photoshop. Now you have all these individual little dots in, you guessed it, in Illustrator that you can adjust. So I can make this center point sort of a purple if we want to, right? You get the idea. I can delete that point. I can add a line along the edge. Click. Let's just change this color to yellow. Click, click. And now we have that particular, you can see right over here, freeform gradient. The line and gradient is nice for designs with text. Yeah, that line in the gradient. Yeah, cool. Works for me, Tina. I don't even know where I was going with this. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to do actually. I wanted to take this and I wanted to show you. I needed a design element for my graphic that I'm working on. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go into warp. And let's just try this. Let's just pull this stuff down. In fact, let's just adjust the size of this to 40. 40. Okay. Sorry, let me get this to where everybody can see it a little better. There we go. Too much shifting around. Again, using this warp tool, I'm just pulling through and just trying to make this look like it's like an earth falling. Let's increase the intensity to like 80. It's working okay. Again, just adding a graphic element, pulling that down, pulling down those individual pixels, or excuse me, vectors. Something like that. Cool. You got it. Can't it convert to gradient mesh? No. Well, in Illustrator, you can have a gradient mesh, not in Photoshop. Anothai, I hope I'm answering your question correctly. I just hope I'm answering your question. Let's paste that in as a smart object. It's going to be linked back to Illustrator, stretching that out, and now we have sort of our melted moon. How many designs do we have? Too many designs, right? We'll start to play with this. Since I'm working with a lot of color, I'm noticing as I take a second look at this, I probably want to actually jump in and add or change this, turn this off, maybe change him to just like a black and white, right? Let's crank this up. Just making it a black and white photo is what I'm doing. I think that looks a little better. Little color splash. Cool. Are we having fun? Melting sun, too hot to handle. That's what just happened. Check this out. Let's save this to our desktop, calling it Melting Sun. There we go. I only have about 15 more minutes, so let me just kind of click over and also show you that I'm wearing my gradient shirt today as well. So we've tinted and colored images. We used colors on shapes. We've played with those gradients on those shapes. We've even jumped out to Illustrator and created some gradients and shapes and brought them into Photoshop. I wanted to do something else. Let me show you this. You ready? You ready for this, Cheryl Howard? Are you ready? This is going to be really exciting. So we're going to get into this last bullet point, which is using gradients and colors creatively. This does look pretty cool. I'm kind of undecided whether I want this to be... Should it be black and white, or should he have a splash of color? I'm kind of torn on that. So I'll probably, just like with anything else, I'll probably play with a lot of this color. But let's kind of move on from there, because actually what I'm thinking, and you may or may not have seen this, we can play with color creatively by using or like making our own brushes. Okay. So many things we could do here. This is what I'm going to do really fast. Smudge. I'm going to use a smudge tool. Okay, so right in here, going in here, smudge tool. It's this little finger, right? Just like you're smudging your canvas. And let's just take a look. At this. So basically this is what I have going on. Let me increase the size of this brush. Am I doing it? Let's just reset this tool altogether. Okay, so I've reset this tool, by the way. So I didn't want the settings to be any different. It's just set up to this size. And what I'm going to do, so sorry, Command 0, is create a new layer that has all these amazing colors in it. Give me 1 second. There we are. A new layer. Smudge tool. Smudge tool is going to sample from all layers right here. The strength can be 50 or maybe even crank it up to 100%. I'll go about 80. Remember, what did we learn earlier? Hold down the Shift key and you'll get those exact numbers. And what this does, as I pull through that color, it's going to go ahead and start to smudge all of them. Just like that. Can you make a clipping mask with the melting sun? Yeah, sure. A clipping mask in good old Illustrator. Okay. Oh, actually, no. Clipping masks are in Photoshop and Illustrator. I use clipping masks all the time. So that's a great idea, by the way. So look what it did. It just kind of did this little, like, sort of leg coming out of there. So this is typically what I'll do. I'll do this a couple times. I'm realizing I really need to crank up the size, right? In fact, this is what I'm going to do really fast. Sorry. Filter, let's just do, I need to do a pixelate. Let's just try this really fast. I want actually harder edges is what I was thinking. There's my harder edges with crystallize. Okay, so there it is. Let's kind of go in here with my smudge brush. Let's smudge it one more time. Wait for it. Wait for it. Is it moving? Is it moving? It's hard to tell. I think it actually is smudging it, but we have to wait a second. All right, so yeah, thank you, Tima. What's interesting, I got confused with the clipping masks because they're used two different ways. They're just used different ways from Illustrator to Photoshop. I use clipping masks all the time in Photoshop. I don't use them a lot in Illustrator, in fact. All right, let's just escape out of this. This is one thing that's really intense about this smudge brush, and I'm sorry this is taking so long. I might have to open up another file since this is taking so long. Let's see if I have it. Might take me a while. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I will not worry about that. But it's going really slow. It's actually pulling those colors. I'm trying to hit escape because I cranked up the brush so high. Am I on the right layer? I am, actually. Look, this is one thing we can see happening. It's slowly smudging this layer beneath it. Smudging, smudging, smudging. So we will see this grow. And again, what I was trying to do is make... It should be doing. I hope it did it. I might need to click one more time. So let's do this one more time. Yeah, it's going really slow. So anyways, I just wanted to create some cool color splashes and some nebulous shapes in Photoshop. And wanted to add those to the scene. So that's how I'll typically do it, is I'll have a bunch of color on the canvas and then use the smudge tool to create these smudges. By the way, this is compliments of Luke Choice or Velvet Spectrum. So follow him. He's a fantastic guy. He's the one that created this and he does amazing work with it. So I just really appreciate him and all that he does. And, yeah, would love to show that to you. There we go. We can see it slowly moving, just like that. All right, you get the idea. Here's another pro tip, since we're talking about Masterclass. If you're ever looking for a file, I have a ton of projects in here, and I want to find a specific PSD that's in... It's like, I know I have the PSD, but it's in one of these folders. I'll use Bridge. So Bridge will allow you to see all the contents of a of the subfolders, and you can select a PSD. Right? So right in here, streaming projects. This is a pro tip. That's why I'm glad I'm covering this in this masterclass. Show items from subfolders right here. Show me all the items from the subfolders. It's showing me everything. And then what I want to do is I want to filter it out. We could see this is one thing I worked on a little bit ago. I can filter that out by PSD as well. But that's what I'm doing right now, seeing all these graphics to find the one that I want. But anyways, I do not know if you're aware of that, Jordan or Desiree. Cool. Yeah, I am really pushing my computer to the extreme. Nonetheless, what I will take a look at and create is I will post this stuff to Instagram. It's kind of coming down to the end for me as well. Sorry, this processing is taking a while. See, look at that swoosh go. Nebulous thing moving. Yeah, Tima, get more RAM. Easier said than done. Yeah, let me go ahead and get some upstairs and just plug it in right now and have it work. So yeah, I get it. Get a faster computer. I got some other questions on YouTube. Thanks for joining me. You should always hop over to Behance. Yeah. Rupert's asking about questions around whether Photoshop's going to have some features that XD does. Just so you know, what typically happens there is there will be a feature that we have that we'll introduce in After Effects or Photoshop or XD, and then the other teams will realize how successful it was for that product, and then they'll pick it up, they'll adopt it. Okay, so I can't tell you about stuff that's going to be released or any of that. but chances are we're working toward that. I'm down to my last 2 minutes. Sorry, this is like slowly taking forever. I'm trying to exit out of it, but you can see this beautiful image. I have a ton more beautiful images that I'll be glad to show you, by the way. We can see a lot of them in here. This is what we made. We have our melting sun. Super cool. And these other gradient projects as well, right? All done quite simply based on this masterclass, okay? So I'll get those posted to Instagram, PTRANI. Henrique asks about what would be the medium for a pro configuration in Illustrator. Honestly, like whatever works for you. I would say customize the keyboard for stuff that works for you, for your common tasks. Learn those keyboard shortcuts. But a lot of times I just use the properties panel to, finally it's done, to do what I want. So there's my big nebulous shape. Somebody mentioned clipping masks. Let's do that right in here. There we go. So again, just adding to it. Look at that. So cool. We're getting some fun things happening. Thank you, Brent, CL, Henrique. We talked about and covered quite a bit. One of my shortcut keys is tiling everything, by the way. And that's what you can see here. So again, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate you guys. We've done a lot, and hopefully this has inspired you. So I will let you go. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate you.